It's Emil Guillermo. Emil Amok to you. Welcome to our little program we do here on our little, it's not really a corner of the web. It's more like it's a closet. And I'm here with my co-host, Kulin Dong. He's a Kulin Dong Gong. Cool. First name. And he's dressed up formally today. We're all wearing kind of, he's off white. I'm white. I'm white. When can I say that? Welcome to our program. This is where we talk about all things considerable. Some of you get the inside joke there. Some of you say, okay, get to the point, Emil. Yeah, we do this show every day, Monday through Friday. I know, every day, Monday through Friday, 2 p.m. Pacific, live. And we do it because the internet says we can. The internet says, hey, you want that many megabits? Yeah, go. Just talk live. And it turns out there's a lot happening today. We talk about, we ask the question, what does an Asian American think? Since I'm an Asian American Filipino, an AAF, you may be an AAX, an Asian American Chinese, AAC, you may be an AAJ, an Asian American Japanese, an Asian American Hmong, an AAH, and Anyway, it's for all of you, plus everyone else, because we're all one big kanji pot. I think, isn't that what it is? Kanji, where it's like that rice pudding, arroz caldo, hot rice. We're just one hot rice pot together. And all these things are really pertain the things I talk about in the news, since I am a veteran news person, somewhat award winning. I say somewhat because you'll say, well, what kind of awards, Emil? Well, I did win an AAJA Civil Rights Award that was worth half a Pulitzer. That's something. It was. I mean, a Pulitzer, I think, gets you 10,000. I don't think they pay any more than that. And I got this one award, the Suzanne Ahn Award, and that was worth about 5. Anyway, we're here to talk about the news. Think of me as not an obliviating Asian American, but maybe as an Asian American, not a Rush Limbaugh, but you might say, oh, you know what Rush Limbaugh did? He just went on and talked on. And well, I'm like that from a different perspective. I mean, I've got to be from a different perspective than Rush Limbaugh. It's traditional talk radio. We take on the news and I give you my opinion, and you don't even have to call up. Not if you don't wish to. You don't. It's the beauty of this show. You can just sit back and listen. Oh, wow. That's really passive. Yeah, I mean, but you're actively listening. We come on at 2 p.m. Pacific live, which is 5 p.m. on the East Coast. And we do that, as I said, so that we, cover all the bases of where Asian Americans are. Thank you for joining in. Lots happening today. Lots worth talking about. I do want to say that at 5:30 Pacific on these same stations, on emilguillermo.media on Facebook, on the Emil Guillermo page on Facebook, my timeline. We're going to try to get it on YouTube, on the Emil Guillermo channel. It certainly will be on, emilguillermo.media on Facebook. We're doing a live storytelling show in honor of our fathers. And it's important because, Father's Day is coming up on Sunday. And I know people are doing other things. And I thought my friend, Tamiko Wong, who hung out with me at Asian Week years ago, and she's one of the community stalwarts. She said, Emil, we ought to do a thing for fathers. And I said, yeah, okay, let's do it. And then we did that about a month ago. And then last week she said, well, and I said, well, let's do it. So we're doing it at 5:30. So show up at 5:30. I'll tell you my story about my dad and also a story about Vincent Chin, because the confluence of Father's Day, my dad's a special day in his life, and the Vincent Chin, the whole 40th anniversary this year. I've been wanting to talk. I talk about Vincent Chin every year. I mean, if you read my columns on the ALDEF blog, aaldef.org/blog, ALDEF, the Asian American Legal Defense and Education Fund. I talk about Vincent Chin this year is special. It's the 40th, and I'm glad that some people have taken to my opinion that I first laid out about 8 years ago, that we ought to have these days of remembrance over the time that Vincent Chin was in a coma between 2019, or rather June 19th and June 25th, when he was officially pronounced dead. They should be moments where we set aside and think about Vincent Chin, and think about not just his death, but think about all of us as a community. So I'll talk about that during story time, and I'll talk about my dad. We have other storytellers. We have Francis Kaihua Huang, who has written a book about something about how she's more appealing with braids. I don't know. I haven't asked her about that. The appealing Francis Kaihua Huang will be doing something. Tamiko Wong will be, I think she'll be singing. It's kind of like a variety thing. We have other tellers that I've brought on from other walks of life. My friend Randy Ross will talk about one of his father's favorite stories about Thailand. We have a friend of mine from Texas, Erilyn Hughes, who I met in a class with Mike Daisy, and she's a great Texas storyteller. She'll be joining me. We have Ravi Shankar, the semi-famous one, not the sitarist, but I believe I know I'm gonna have to ask him about that. But Ravi Shankar will come and read a poem. So it's a fun time, and it'll be quick, and it will be reflective, and it'll be a time to honor our dads. So it's free. Did I tell you it's free? Oh my God, Emil. Did you win some grant or something? No, I didn't win a grant. I didn't win anything. We're just telling stories. Tamiko and I just, hey, let's do a story time thing. So we're going to do a story time thing. That's coming up 5:30 p.m. Pacific. Go to emilguillermo.media on Facebook. We're going to try to push it onto the YouTube. And also, wherever you're seeing this, I don't think it's going to be on Twitter at Emil Amok. I don't think I can push it there. But check it out. 5:30 p.m. I call it Emil and Tamiko's Pop Up for Pops. Just to get you in the mood. For Father's Day, which is coming up. Okay, so I talked about the story show. I talked about, yesterday, I gave you a little preview about my dad's story. And, every 14th, it just turns out that June is a time for all these anniversaries. And June 14th turns out to be a special day. For me, it was a day that I went to a ball game with my dad. We went to a ball game, and then something dramatic happens. I tell that story in my book, Amok, A-M-O-K. I also told that story at NPR. I tell a different version of the story just because I'm different and the time is different, and you'll be different if you join in and hear me tell that story at 5:30 p.m. Pacific. And yesterday was the 14th, and I got to experience it as I do every year. I usually watch baseball. The Giants were in town, but they were a little too far for me to go this time out, so I did not attend the game in person, but I was there experiencing the game as I did 44 years ago, watching Vita Blue pitch for the Giants, going for the pennant. And what do you know? Here we have a Giants team that can go for the pennant. I mean, they are probably, I would have to say this about the Giants. They are I can't say the cheapest team because that would have to be the A's. The Oakland A's would have to be the cheapest team, and they show it. I mean, they have essentially abandoned their fans. But some of the devotees of the Billy Bean system in Oakland have now crossed the bay to San Francisco, and they've also done some time with the LA Dodgers, and they are perfecting the art of being cheap, dynastic baseball entities. They are perfecting the art of being good and cheap champions in this case baseball. And I think it's amazing how they keep getting the most out of these spare part players. I mean, Mike Yastrzemski, he's an okay player, but he was not considered a great star. But you use him well. He hits the ball hard when he hits his pitch, and boom, he's like a slugger. He walks. He gets on base. He scored a critical run last night against the Kansas City Royals. And the Giants have proven you can be a delightfully entertaining underdog and not bust the bank. I mean, not be you're the not New York Yankees. You're the not Los Angeles Dodgers. You are the not big stars. You are just the guys who play baseball and can be the darling underdog who becomes a champion, which is, kind of appealing. So I like the fact that the Giants are kind of positioned the way they were or are. And I like the fact that I can look at them and I can look at them through my dad's eyes. June 14th, going back to 1978, when we went to a game together. And I just like that fact that they were the Giants. Giants then doing their thing, and they had some good, decent players. Vita Blue pitching. Here they've got Carlos Rodon, and he's good, great pitcher. And they got Logan Webb, who's becoming a great pitcher. I guess he's the ace now. He pitched last night. But it was just fun to see the underdog dynasty develop, the cheapskates. I know they would have the hearts of my dad because he was a cheapskate at heart. And it was just nice to see the game June 14th. Every June 14th, I see a Giants game. And I explained that tonight if you go to Storytime. So go to Storytime tonight, 5:30. Go to emilguillermo.media on Facebook, my Emil Guillermo page on YouTube, and catch the stories that me and about 8 other storytellers are going to share about their dads. Okay, it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun. They're a little sounder. This is a talk show. Come on, we got sounders here. So we talk about the Storytime show. We talk about Dad's Day. Storytime show later. In the news today, Buffalo. This is a big deal. I don't know if it's the weather. I don't know if, what it is exactly. But, the Buffalo shooting suspect, everyone calls him the Buffalo shooting suspect. They don't call him his name. And I think that's because they don't want to glorify him. I think that's just wrong. We need to name him so that we can shame him and shame his family There is no honor in being an avowed white supremacist who's gunned down all those people in Buffalo. And so I had to go down to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th graph to get to Peyton Gendron, who's 18, who's the man who shot 13 people total at that Tops Friendly Market on May 14th. Only 3 survived, 11 dead. I mean, that's something. And I think this whole idea, oh, we don't want to glorify him. Let's glorify the dead. No, we can glorify the dead if you wish, but there are so many of them. And I think in their communities, they are glorified. They are known. But I think we need to shame the perps. And Peyton Gendron, 18, you need to mention him so we know know the shame. We know what he did. And I just, this is where I disagree with a lot of people say, oh, let's not mention the guy's name. Now, just like we know throughout the years, people like John Wayne Gacy and people like Richard Speck and people like, these are all the famous bad guys. The Unabomber, Ted Kaczynski. We know the bad guys by name, and we remember them. And it doesn't make us want to go out there and follow them. It makes us remember that there were real people who did these bad, heinous things. And now we put them up for trial. Suspect in the Buffalo Massacre, here's the lead, that left 10 black residents dead, was charged on Wednesday with federal hate crimes and weapons violations in a complaint that included new details about the depth of his hatred. Although there is currently a moratorium on federal executions, some of the federal charges against the gunman could carry the death penalty if the Justice Department decided to seek it, and Attorney General Merrick Garland did not rule out that possibility. And so they laid out all the charges against him. They said during the shooting, which was live streamed, the suspect wore camouflage and body armor, carried a semi-automatic Bushmaster rifle. Before the attack, authorities said the suspect had posted a rant on Discord, a chat application, outlining his belief in so-called replacement theory. There it is, replacement theory. You just have to always keep in mind replacement theory. It's not just a passing thing. It's what's driving a lot of white supremacists. It's part of the ideology that believes that there is some kind of scheme to replace white people with people of color, right? This is part of the conspiratorial trend in America, especially among conservatives, many of whom are in the mainstream of the Republican Party, who believe that people of color are being picked by a cabal of elitists, people of color, immigrants, allowed to come in to replace white people. That's what they believe. It's total BS. It's total nonsense. But this is the conspiracy they believe. It's called replacement theory. And I joke about it. I did a little monologue at my college reunion. I said, oh, that was my problem. It's not that I didn't graduate with white privilege. It's that white replacement theory exists and I didn't replace enough white people. That was my problem. So you can take it seriously and satirize it at the same time. It's ridiculous, white replacement theory. But that's what Peyton Gendron believed. Merrick Garland, the Attorney General, said the suspect believed in the vile theory that only people like him belong in this country, and noted the extent of the violence, which included some 60 shots fired inside the supermarket. And then there was another in the affidavit. An FBI agent said the suspect's motive was to prevent black people from replacing white people and eliminating the white race, and to inspire others to commit similar acts. And this is the problem. With you want to protect Peyton Gendron from the allegations. No, you say his name. You say, this is the perp. Here's what he's accused of. Look at the heinous things and try to hope that we don't see another Peyton Gendron. I mean, look, you're not going to prevent copycats by not mentioning the guy's name. It doesn't glorify him to mention him. What it does is bring shame. I believe in the power of shame. Today in Buffalo, the Justice Department laid out the charges against Peyton Gendron. We need to hear them as a country dealing with guns, dealing with racism, dealing with white replacement theory, dealing with all those conspiracy theories that just need to be exposed as bogus. And you know that this is linked to the other big story of the day that I've been talking about, the January 6th hearings. Because Proud Boys, all the people who were behind the violence, who were there, the insurrectionists, what do they believe? I bet you to a person, at least a third to half believe in white replacement theory. That's what we're dealing with in America today. And that's a sad thing, but this has happened today, June 15th, the charges. And wouldn't you know, Dylan Roof, the day that he did his menacing act in South Carolina, we're coming up to an anniversary this week too. We'll be mentioning that more this week. But today, let's give this day with the focus on Peyton Gendron and Buffalo. So that's Buffalo. I think today is also an important day because you got to consider that this is 10 years after DACA, the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. 10 years. Federal district judge. This is, it was on July 16, 2021, that in Texas versus U.S., that a federal judge found DACA unlawful and blocked the Department of Homeland Security from granting DACA to thousands who are applying. But now, it's there's this political confusion about what value is DACA. Should DACA be in? Should be out? Where it stands in the courts is it's still considered a short-term solution. It's been 10 years, and activists are now saying, hey, look, if you're eligible to renew your deferred action under DACA, but have not yet done so, consult with immigration attorneys and nonprofit legal service providers if you have any questions. There's a list of legal service providers on the ALDEF, the Asian American Legal Defense and Education Fund website. What you need to understand is, even though there's some confusion, there are some ways that you either can renew DACA or qualify for DACA, but you gotta consult your attorney, an immigration attorney, because it's going to be different depending on your circumstances. But here's the thing. Here's the reason why organizations like ALDEF and other nonprofits who deal with the Black, Indigenous, and people of color communities throughout the nation, they're celebrating it because they know what DACA has meant. What DACA has meant that this is probably one of the most successful ways that people have been integrated into the system in a long, long time. And I say that because if those people who were undocumented youth through no fault of their own were allowed to come in because they were allowed to participate, go to school, work, the only thing that they haven't had is that pathway to citizenship. That's the only hang up. But if you are able to renew DACA and be here under DACA, this has been a success story. And you have DACA recipients who have lived in this country for 21 years on average, 82% of which or whom are in the labor force. I mean, this has been a successful short-term solution, and now it's time for Congress to say, hey, this has been a success for people who've become part of the program. They need to be embraced fully and given a pathway to citizenship. And that's really the best reason to celebrate 10 years of DACA. 10 years of DACA, what does that mean exactly? 10 years of DACA for all people of color. I'm talking about Asians and Africans, and I'm talking about Latinx communities. I mean, we have seen DACA, despite everyone kind of throwing brickbats at it, we've seen it succeed. We've seen it bring people into a middle class, from out of the shadows into the middle class. This is a quote from a professor of sociology, Roberto Gonzalez. He says, the 10-year long view of DACA is really the story of young people taking advantage of a policy to find on-ramps to education, job-level programs, and certificates, who are able to use that early entry to get their foot in the door in jobs and careers as stepping stones to really launch themselves. It's indisputably the most successful policy of immigration integration since the 1980s. It's the American dream put into reality at a scale of hundreds of thousands of people. And this is the important thing to consider with DACA. I mean, there's a lot of, like I said, question marks because of all the little legal maneuverings done by people who want to end DACA. I think the most recent one is this Texas Republican-led challenge at the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, and a court decision that is blocking new DACA applicants from getting approved. But renewals, you may not be among the new applicants, but if you could possibly get renewed, see an attorney, see if you're eligible, because those of you who are in the system already, you're the success story, and you're the biggest reason why the next step should be getting a pathway to citizenship for you. I mean, really, can you think of a better way of integrating people into the mainstream? I can't think of it. People go back to the GI Bill when they think of how, this is the way they integrated Latinos or some Asian Americans, right? Filipino Americans, certainly, who fought in World War II in the U.S. They were in the U.S. and then they went and fought, and they were given GI Bill benefits almost immediately, unlike the Filipinos who were in the Philippines, who answered the call of Roosevelt and then fought. That was a separate group. But my God, you really have to go back to the GI Bill to see something that has been as effective as DACA. And I say that alone is reason to try to make sure that, hey, let's not end DACA. Let's fulfill the promise and give these people a pathway to citizenship. All right, so we got to talk a little about DACA. I mean, like I said, there's all these anniversaries, and I want to talk all these events coming up. I want to talk about loving. It was Loving Day on the 12th. I'm going to get to that. I'm married. My wife is Caucasian. So I think about the loving decision a lot because I think that back in the 30s, if I were seen with my wife, I could be strung up. I could be harmed. I could be seen as somehow, oh, wow, this is the white replacement theory in action. They're replacing us as bridegrooms. What's that Filipino doing there? And we have the loving decision to thank for really revolutionizing this perspective of race mixing in America. You know, whites couldn't marry blacks. Filipinos or Asians with whites, don't even think about it. It was taboo. There were some laws in 1948 that allowed for race mixing in California, but throughout the United States, anti-miscegenation laws didn't come off the books until Loving in the 1960s, 1967. June 12, 1967, the Supreme Court unanimously ruled that the ban on interracial marriage was a violation of the 14th Amendment. Think about that. Not until 1967, June 12th, a very key moment. Now, imagine this. What if in the swing back of the pendulum, you know, abortion rights and all the other rights, what if someone said, hey, you know, this interracial marriage thing, what if you get a lot of MAGA guys in Congress who say, oh, we ought to put a ban on interracial marriage because this is the white replacement theory gone amok. They're not just hooking up with our white women, they're marrying them, and we're going to have these interracial babies. And oh, well, look, it's already started, folks. But what if, along with everything else that could be reversed with, you know, a woman's right to choose, along with affirmative action, what if they reverse the June 12, 1967 ruling that said interracial marriage was the ban on interracial marriage was a violation of the 14th Amendment? The lead lawyer of Loving, I was able to talk to him a few years back. He said, quote, it was the only law that made it concrete for the nation. This is what Phil Hirschkopf, the lead lawyer who argued the case before the Supreme Court. He said, quote, California opinions applied just to California. The ban on intermarriage was the law in 17 states, mostly in the South. Maryland repealed its own law. So Loving struck down those laws, but also hundreds of others. Many states had multiple laws, not just banning marriage from races or whatever it was defined by, but laws against going to another state to avoid the marriage laws, passing property. There was a whole host of laws. We counted 167 laws that were voided by the Loving opinion itself. That was a quote from Phil Hirschkopf. It's on the ALDEF blog, aaldef.org/blog. And we must remember Loving Day, June 12th. 1967. We remember it because America wouldn't be America. My three kids wouldn't have been possible. And it's common to see Asian American women with Caucasians and non-Asians. But how often or how normal is it to see Asian American men with non-Asian women? Not that normal. I mean, usually it's the Asian American women. But we must remember that Asian American women usually were allowed to cross the line because they married white men. No one messed with white men. But Asian American men marrying white women, oh, that crosses the line for white men. And that's why it really happened. Another reason why we remember June 12th, 1967 and the reversal of the ban on interracial marriage. And we remember the Loving decision. All right, just a few more things to talk about. Lowell High School. I'm going to mention the Mineta thing in a second, but I got to talk about Lowell High School because they're going to be talking about the admissions policy. Try to get the update. It's June 16th. It's tomorrow. And as you know, there is a move to extend the lottery-based admissions policy for an additional year, thereby using the system to select the August 2023 entering ninth grade class. The lottery has already been used to select the August 2021. Who is this? Maybe this is Lowell High School. Yeah, I already graduated from high school. Okay. Yeah, you got to put that on Don't Disturb, Emil. Otherwise people will disturb you. Anyway, they've already used it for the 2021 and 2022 entering classes. Now, August 2023, they want to extend it a year. I think it's terrible that they've extended it 2 years already. To extend it a third is just plain lazy. The school board, the Board of Education in San Francisco, before they destroy Lowell, they got to consider a way to make Lowell the crown jewel that it was in the San Francisco public school system. Instead of making Lowell into, they're making Lowell into something less than. And I say this as a person of color who took advantage of what Lowell had to offer someone like me. I mean, Lowell provides people of color, also, actually all races, whites, Latinos, Asians, blacks. It gives all people in San Francisco the chance at a great public school education. Right now, the only people who can take advantage of a great high school education in San Francisco are those who can afford private school. You want to go to University High, you want to go to Burke School, you want to go to, you name the private schools. Urban, there are a lot of them. SI, St. Ignatius, a lot of people opt out of public school. They send their kids to private schools at a cost of 30, 40, 50, 60,000 a year in some cases. Where does that leave the poor kid, like I was back in the 1970s? What do I have? Well, I had Lowell High School. But if I didn't have Lowell High School, I would have Mission High. No knock on Mission. but I just wouldn't have had the kind of education because I would not have been focused just on my schoolwork and my academic. I would have had to be focused on protecting myself, not getting beat up. I would have had to be focused on everything else but education because that's what you focus on when you're going to a general comprehensive high school. When you go to an academic school like Lowell, you have the freedom to focus on academics and to excel and to be a part of yourself that you don't get that chance of being because you can't afford it. You can't afford private school. That was the beauty of Lowell. Now, I understand there's some people who did not. I mean, I've written op-eds in the San Francisco Chronicle, and I said, this isn't just a fixed junior high school as kids go, qualify to Lowell. This is a K through 8. You got to go K through 8. You got to go holistic. And if you fix K through 8, if you fix preschool, you have people who are given the opportunity to excel and to learn, then you don't have to worry about Lowell being a people suck of all the great students because you know that there are great students everywhere. But you cannot have that solution until you fix the entire problem K through 12. So the school board is stupid. The school board says, let's put a Band-Aid on this and fix it and make it look good, like we're doing something for diversity. We're just making all the schools bad. That's what they're doing. Let's bring the standards of Lowell down and make Lowell bad to match all the low standards everywhere else. And then we'll have equality. And then what happens to the bright kid who's African American, Latinx, the poor kid who's Asian American? They go to their district high school and they're cheated out of Lowell. They're cheated of having a true academic experience at Lowell. That's why I don't like this lottery. I don't like a lottery because, number one, what does a lottery suggest? A lottery suggests you've given up. Cast your fate to the wind. Let the lottery deal with it. Because then you could say, you know what, I'm sorry. You did not get a good public education because we failed you as educators. You did not get a good public education because we failed you as a school system because, hey, we left it up to chance. We left it up to a lottery. That, to use the phrase of former Attorney General William Barr, that is just bull. Yes, you can complete the syllable. Oh, we're thinking alike. We can complete each other's syllables. Yeah, it's bull. You know it. So, I wasn't thinking about this before I got this email from the Alumni Association. I'm not part of the Alumni Association. I am not a part of groups. I've learned this about myself. I'm not a part of groups because I'm a bad group member. But I think that if you are enraged by this, like I am, they're having the school board meeting. There's going to be a rally first at 555 Franklin Street in San Francisco. And then they're going to meet in the Irving G. Breyer board meeting room, 555 Franklin Street in San Francisco. Meeting, if you meet at 4 p.m., there'll be a rally in support of academic admissions, and then they'll go in to the meeting after the rally. The meeting starts at 5 p.m. I think it's important. I think it's important because public schools, public education needs every bit of good that it can muster. And one of the good things of public education is you can get a decent, high level, quality college prep education for free without paying $70,000. A lot of people say, "Oh, Emil, come on. What's wrong with you? Just pay the $70,000 a year." I don't have 70,000. In fact, this is the reason why I am not in San Francisco anymore. I moved out of San Francisco to move to another suburb. San Francisco isn't a suburb, but I moved to a suburb to get a public school education. In retrospect, I wish I hadn't. I wish I'd stayed in San Francisco and stuck it out. But I moved to a suburb. My kids got an okay education, but I'll tell you, they got a better education at an inner city school in the Central Valley. And that is the truth. You need rigor. You need teachers who believe in it. Go see, what is the Jaime Escalante movie? See that movie. Jaime, the calculus teacher in L.A. Edward James Olmos. That's a great movie. That's what all the high schools should be like. But you can't. You need teachers. You need a belief system. But I believe it can happen in the comprehensive high schools. But you need support. It can happen individually with teachers like Jaime Escalante, who taught calculus, right? Taught all these geniuses, people that gave up on, these Latinx students. So, believe me, I'm not an elitist in that sense of, we need Lowell to have these elite kids. But I believe that you have Latinx, African American, Asian American kids who can't afford a quality private school education. They need a Lowell. Lowell cannot have another lottery year, because then you'll have 3 years and then you will have destroyed Lowell. The meeting is at 5 p.m. on the 16th, 555 Franklin Street, San Francisco, the SFUSD headquarters. Meeting at 5, rally outside the building, 4 p.m., Lowell High School. Fight for the best public education that your tax dollars can buy, because that's what it is. It's tax dollars. And we need to pay for public education at that high school level. Lowell High School is the answer. It's Lowell, not a lottery. Lowell, not a lottery. All right, so one last thing before we say goodbye for the day. God, there's a lot of things to talk about. And I talk about this next thing because it's important. Norman Mineta, my old boss, died first week in May. We talked about it then. You can look at some old shows. Go to emilguillermo.media on Facebook, or go to amok.com and just look and see when we talked about Norm in May. Well, he had a homecoming today. He came back around 11 o'clock, 11:30. I hope his plane wasn't delayed. How you like this? Norm flies in to the Norman Y. Mineta International Airport. How about that? I bet you he did that when he was alive too. He had to have, right? I mean, that was such a thrill to have an airport named after you. I mean, I was at the I was not at the Emil Guillermo Airfield in St. Louis for 5 hours, trapped 2 Wednesdays ago. But if they named it the Emil Guillermo Airfield because I was trapped there for 5.5 hours, I would say that would be a fair reparation for my inconvenience. Anyway, Norm flies in today at 11:30, and he is now lying in state at San Jose City Hall. And I think that's great. I mean, it's really unprecedented. I don't think of anyone who lies in state at City Hall. I mean, it's believed to be the first such ceremony. They're going to have, he's there. They had a Coast Guard honor guard, taken to the rotunda. He's resting in honor. Public is invited until 7 p.m. Pacific, so you have about 4 more hours. I will not be able to attend, but I want all of you to attend. They had a little program at 1 p.m. Pacific with Sam Liccardo and some of the people who really pushed the transit thing in Santa Clara County. People like Rod Diridon, Blanca Alvarado, members of the Board of Supervisors there. And it was a nice ceremony. You can actually see the ceremony on YouTube. And I'm going to check out that ceremony on YouTube. So that was today. Had a little ceremony. And then they're going to have another thing tomorrow. The memorial service is June 16th, Thursday. And it's happening once again at the San Jose Civic between 10:30 and 12, a public ceremony. And it's also going to be streaming live if you can't make it. But, you know, the big story today, really, one of the things we didn't get to is Dr. Anthony Fauci has COVID. And so, look, I know we're doing all these things. Now it looks like, hey, we're out of COVID, or, you know, we're back to normal. No, we're not back to normal. So I want you to understand that we're not back to normal and respect the fact that the family, Norm's family, is saying family requests guests to be vaccinated. It's an honor system. So don't lie through your mask. Wear your mask, show up, and if you can't, there's a streaming service. It's going to be a live stream. If you want the link, email me or send me a message on the Facebook chat, and I'll send you the link. This is for tomorrow morning's big, I say big, but it's at the San Jose Civic. And they asked for an RSVP. But go check it out between 10:30 and noon. The Mineta family inviting you to celebrate the life well lived of Norman Y. Mineta, who died on May 3rd. Now, I will say this. I'll save this for tomorrow. I'll save my Norm notes for tomorrow because he was important. He was an important person in my life. I mean, I was fortunate to have worked with him, you know, for the 103rd Congress, the little bit of the 103rd Congress that I was able to take part in. And then I got a job in the media. I went back. I was sort of like a Filipino Jen Psaki. Well, look at it that way. I mean, Jen Psaki worked for, you know, Biden, and then, you know, for a few months, and then she left. I worked for Norm for almost a year. I was enjoying Congress, but it was Congress, and look, even Norm left Congress soon after because of what they called the Newt Gingrich revolution on America. But I think what happened was Norm found himself. You know, he became a different kind of politico, right? He used Congress as a stepping stone to cabinet level posts for both the Bush and the Clinton administrations. He was a great man. And I think really, I saw him as a father figure to the community. And that's why it's worth honoring. If you're near San Jose, he's at the Rotunda of the City Hall till 7 p.m. Pacific today. He's at the San Jose Civic Auditorium tomorrow morning at 10:30. 10:30 to noon. San Jose Civic, 135 West San Carlos Street. If you want the link to the live stream, put it in the chat. Email me, Emil@amok.com, and I'll send you the link. But yeah, Norm Mineta. All this stuff happening around Father's Day. He is really, he's the father of Asian American, the modern Asian American community. I mean, I don't know if you can come up with another name. A lot of people say, oh, who's our Jesse Jackson? Who was our political leader? And don't look at the stars. A lot of people say, oh, look at Daniel Day Kim. Nice guy. Oh, look at they'll name all the famous actors because actors have fame and actors have numbers. But who has the clout? Who had the wherewithal to make things happen like reparations for Japanese Americans? Norman Y. Mineta. That's why we honor him. Welcome home, Norm. Welcome home. And that's everything for today. We pack it in. We pack it into the micro talk show of the AAPI and the AAXs and the ALLs. And if you're here with us, thank you for listening. Tell people about, the replays on amok.com. Also, we put the replays on Facebook at emilguillermo.media. We've done 324 of these. And truth be told, it's probably more than that. Because I don't know when we started counting. I think we started counting once we thought, oh, that's kind of interesting. But coming up later today, I'm doing another Storytime show. 5:30 Pacific. 5:30 Pacific, the Storytime show. So come join me. I'm joined. It's Emil, Amok, and Tamiko Wong, my dear friend from Asian Week. She said, hey, let's do a Storytime show. I said, okay, pop up for pops, talking about Father's Day. And Francis Kaiwan Wong will be there. Ravi Shankar will be there. My friend Randy Ross will be there. Julian Simeon, Filipino-American storyteller. We have Erilyn Hughes, Texas storyteller, that I just bumped into. We were taking class. Mike Daisy, not the Mike Daisy, Emil. Yeah, the Mike Daisy. Yeah, and I was Emil Hibiscus, and we had a great time. Hot house flowers together. We're all talking about our dads from all walks of life. It should be fun. And if all goes well, it shouldn't last very long. I've been on some of these Zooms, and they've lasted for 3 hours. 3 hours. Now, this is not a 3-hour Zoom show. We're in and out. We're in and out. Come on. In and out. Because we respect you. We respect you. Hey, it's fun. It's been fun. Today's been fun. We've just been talking. This is News Talk, the Asian American micro talk show, right here in my gong closet. And as I said, when Fauci gets the cooties, it's kind of a weird day, because it just shows you that, hey, friends, we are not out of this pandemic. We are in this pandemic. The beauty of the cooties now is that it's not as bad. You can say, you get the cooties and it's like a cold. Well, it's not a cold, but it's not debilitating and it won't kill you. If you're 4-vaxxed, you got to be 4-vaxxed. Don't raise your hands if you got 4. If you got 4, you're special. I'm telling you, you're special if you got 4. The two vaccines, right? Plus the booster, plus the second booster. 4 shot. Are you 4 shot? 4 shot. Hey. Got to get that 4th shot. And then it won't kill you. It'll just kind of like Tanya Harding, bashing Nancy Kerrigan's leg. It'll debilitate you for a while, but it won't kill you, right? Is that like a far off reference? And maybe that's not a good reference. But I'm just telling you, when Dr. Fauci, when he gets it, he says it's a mild case, but it just tells you we're not out of this. You got to carry your mask. You got to bring your mask. You got to get the fourth shot. Get the fourth shot. Okay. Our storytelling show, 5:30. Go to Facebook, the events, Emil Amok and Tamiko Wong's thing. Go to my Facebook page, emilguillermo.media. Sign up. You can watch it there. You don't really have to sign up, but it's good to know. And no tickets. It's free. It's free. Free. I like that. Doesn't it rev up your self-esteem? I know. Mine too. And self-esteem, that's what it all boils down to. I've been doing a lot of reading about shame. Whenever you hear shame, the word shame, it means think self-love. You hear shame, you got to think, oh, I got to love myself. I got to value myself. I can't let shame drag me down this negative path. You got to think love, self-love. You got to put this hand here like this, and this hand like that. Give yourself a squeeze. It works. I'm telling you, it works. Self-compassion, loving self-compassion. It works. And so, as I wish for me, I wish for you. May you be safe. May you be healthy. May you be happy. And may you live with ease. Till next time. Emil Guillermo here. Mahal Kita.